I say. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
On the bus?
Sure. Is Carnegie Hall in New York?
I don't know.
I don't know. What I do know is, hi, you're watching Doctor Who Review. Husband and wife watching Doctor Who from the very, 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 very beginning. We're now in the 10th Doctor's era. Series 3, second video. Video.
I thought you were doing Dual Solid.
We're going to watch Doctor Who. It's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cortinas. I'm Chris.
I'm not Chris.
And today we're talking about Series 3's first two-parter. Minnie's absolutely loving it. She's so excited. She's falling asleep. Series 3's first two-parter. The first non-alien threat story in the modern era.
Wow.
The closest we have to a historical, really.
Wow.
Weird that's actually...
I think that's why I like it.
Yeah. The Lazarus Experiment is the first story since... Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. First televised story since Black Orchid that, though it's not a historical, there is no extraterrestrial threat in it.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? And 42, which we finished earlier today.
We did.
And I have thoughts. So,
is that Dalek backwards?
Yes.
Yes.
He's showing off his booty. That's Dalek Thay?
Dalek Steve.
That's Dalek... Mm-hmm. Because they're all really gossipy in this one.
Ah.
No, that's Dalek. That's
They like
Dalek.
to
That's
spill
Dalek
the
Thay who gives up his what's it called?
Dalekanium.
Hell yeah, Dalekanium. Toward the project. So, part 1 and 2. Let's talk about it as a whole story. Let's be honest. Daleks in Manhattan and evolution of the Daleks.
Daleks.
Not Chris.
Yes.
What's the plot of Daleks in Manhattan? Evolution of the Daleks.
The Doctor's taking Martha to all the places that he took Rose. So, oh no, that was the previous one.
Wow.
So they've gone
Off to a great start.
Sorry, start again.
Awesome.
They go. Doctor takes Martha to New York. She's always wanted to see it, hasn't she? And it's after the Great Depression. No, it's during the Great Depression. Sorry.
Yeah. Set in 1930.
And we meet a showgirl.
Tallulah.
Tallulah.
Played by the wonderful Miranda Raisin.
And a stagehand. Laszlo.
Yeah, played by Ryan Carnes.
And he suddenly goes missing. And the Doctor and Martha end up in
Hooverville. Yeah.
Where a lot of people that have been affected by the crash live now. They live in Central Park, essentially, because
it's a shanty town in the middle of Central Park.
Nobody's got any money.
They're looked after by you, Quashie's Solomon.
Yeah.
Who's
Solomon, that's a, good name.
Yeah. There's obviously some, connotations going on here as well, but, Solomon's sort of in charge of the place. We meet a young lad there, Frank, played by Andrew Garfield.
Little baby.
Little baby Andrew Garfield. 5 years before the next time he's in New York.
New York. But yeah, the people in Hooverville have started disappearing as well.
Meanwhile, what's going on?
They're building a tower.
Tower?
I can't remember what building it is.
The Empire State
Building.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the
headed up
pinnacle spots in New York. And
headed up by Mr. Diagoras, played by Eric Loren. Who's in charge of it, and apparently they've got some weird backers.
That's a weird phrase.
It was true. He keeps referring to them as the Masters.
What a weird backer.
What a weird backer. That's Backett's Roundabout, that is.
You're a weird backer.
You're Backett's Roundabout, Mr. Dalek. Because, the Daleks are in the basement of the Empire State Building. Specifically, the Cult of Skaro. Can you remember all their names?
There is a Dalek Sec.
Yep.
Dalek Trent. Dalek. Dalek Marcus. And Dalek
Karen.
Gregor.
No, it's Dalek Khan, Dalek Thay, Dalek Jast, and Dalek Sec. The Cult of Skaro, who emergency temporal shifted out of last year's finale. When this first came out, I was legit surprised at how soon they returned.
Yeah, I mean, this series has got some of that in, hasn't it, really?
I'm glad that they didn't return in the finale.
Yeah, that's a bit too much.
Because that would have been a bit like, is this going to be every year then? Are the Daleks going to be in the finale every year? And I kind of assumed that we wouldn't see them again for another series or so. I mean, believe what you want to believe, folks. There's the whole Terry Nation estate
fiasco.
Well, yeah, like sort of suspected contract that means that the Daleks have to be used in one major project per year, be that the show or something else prominent, or they can't use them. No idea if it's true.
Well, I mean...
It is speculated upon, and you hear different things from different people, but if that exists, then it's likely that's why there is a Dalek story slap bang in the middle of this series, and it's so soon after their last appearance.
Just trying to get it out.
Now, that being said, we try to ignore what's coming later when we talk about these episodes.
Yeah.
But I'll briefly say it's kind of cool because obviously the tag at the end of this leads to something really interesting in Series 4 with Dalek Khan, temporal shifting, and where he ends up. So...
Is he yet?
What? You can, I don't, if someone's watching this, Boo, I don't think you have to worry about spoilers for future episodes.
Okay. Is he the one that goes crazy?
He's the one that goes nuts. Yeah,
like crazy.
He's the one that's like when you see him in the ship, it's just a cracked shell, and he's just sat in the top prophesying.
I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the one. That's him.
All the bright lights.
Why is your impression of Dalek Khan the same as your impression of the Spider Queen?
The spiders.
Anyway,
Doctor.
What are the Daleks doing? What's happening?
Oh, I don't know.
Really? Or are you crocheting and getting confused?
No, I was thinking of spiders.
If you can tell me what their plan is, I will give you half of this orange twirl.
Ooh! Is this going to be a new thing in each episode?
No.
Oh.
I just want to see if you've paid attention.
I've seen it. I like these episodes.
What's the Daleks' plan?
The Daleks want to build their race up essentially again, which is what it's this bloody storyline every time.
Well, with these,
I don't blame them because you can't.
I don't blame the evil space Nazi monsters.
No, I don't mean the space Nazis. I mean the people that write these stories for the Daleks, because
at this point in their history, there's like none of the buggers left.
Exactly. So the only way
Rose wiped out the sort of resurgence of them. The Cult of Skaro are like, we've got thousands of them in a prison ship, so let's unleash them and we'll all be great. And then all of them get sucked into the void except for these four.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like, we have no numbers.
There is nothing
no
you can do
ranks.
except bring them all back to you.
But what is their plan to bring about more?
Why is that in my head? They are taking people, and if they are not strong enough, like if they're not intelligent enough, they will turn them into slaves. Mm-hmm. But if they are intelligent, pig slaves.
Which they never really explain. I used to have a pig slave, but I sold it on eBay when we were saving up for the wedding in 2018.
Do you? Oh, I'm thinking of the little pig from...
I've got Space Pig from World War III.
Yeah.
But I've not got a pig slave. And I don't have a Laszlo. He's actually really well made. I don't have a Laszlo. I'd love to have a Laszlo.
So they're taking these people because they're going to combine Dalek and humans. Because, it's more practical, really.
The idea being splice the DNA.
I think they just want legs and thumbs.
You find out that their first plan was to just wholesale create new Daleks, but the emergency temporal shift landed them in the late 1920s in America. So they didn't have the technology to do it accurately in the way they would have liked. And the Doctor finds a corpse of one of the attempts as well in the story.
I could have sworn he licked it.
He does that with other stuff, so you just assume he does it with this too. But no, this is dead genetic matter. He's not just gonna.
Oh, I could have sworn. Didn't he lick something gross?
The walls in the library in Tooth and Claw. I think he licks the monitor that the wires kept on. I don't know.
Anyway.
Enough
about what
K9's shiny backside.
Oh my goodness. That's not true.
That we know of.
No!
There'll be 6 Big Finish box sets about it. So, yeah, but so their plan was to create new Daleks, but the technology is not here in this time period. It's not possible. But they've got all these sort of, not embryos, but like the starting code of the DNA.
Well, we're here now. We may as well make the best of it.
So Dalek Sec's plan is to, as you say, implant that DNA into human shells.
Yeah.
They've effectively wiped these humans clean.
Yeah, what was them was now gone.
So they're just sort of like still warm corpses, essentially, just waiting to be like repurposed. But to do so, it involves this lightning strike that's going to happen on a specific night, and
they're building this building really quickly.
Yeah, the
to
Empire
take advantage
State's
of that thing because
construction is accelerated based on what we know. Yeah,
they're putting a spire on there, and it's not going to be powerful enough. So the Daleks all give a piece of themselves.
No, they don't.
To give, yeah, they do.
One Dalek gives it's a shed load of Thay's arse, basically.
It looks like he's
sacrifices have been made.
A little cheeky behind the look behind over the shoulder look. Why was that so difficult to say?
I
don't know. I'm gonna leave now.
Don't leave.
Goodbye.
Please stay. I have to go now. My planet needs me. So yeah, basically, lightning strike, Dalekanium on the mast of the Empire State Building will be the trigger, but they've still not quite cracked the code. The mystery as far as the rest of the world and Hooverville is concerned is that people from the outskirts of this poverty-stricken community are going missing, usually when recruited for jobs by Mr. Diagras to work on or around or under the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
There are pig slaves in the sewers, like people who are essentially the dumber humans, the ones who apparently didn't have the capacity for the DNA splice. So they had their DNA's been merged with pigs to make them like a really basic, subservient, Igor Frankenstein's monster style race of slaves. Essentially,
it's really weird because wouldn't you just keep them as they are, but make it
Roboman them like in Dalek Invasion with the helmets on their
just
heads?
put like a collar around them and say, "Oh, look, we're going to kill you if you don't do what we want," and then that way you don't have to keep recycling them and being really obvious.
I think the reason they did it, in
I don't
all
think these
honesty,
Dalek people are very clever.
the pig slaves, because this story's one that people either seem to love or be like, whatever. And I kind of sit comfortably in the middle. I'm like, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I like a lot of the ideas in it. The pig slaves are the only kind of weak idea for me.
Yeah.
It feels like like somebody, whether it was the Creature team, whether it was Helen Rayner, the writer, whether it was Russell, like someone went, oh, that'd look scary. And there are moments where they're really creepy, but it doesn't really do anything. Also, it's odd because this story features a different creature effect where it's human from the neck down and something else from the face up. So it's sort of like the pig slaves feel wasted. It feels like they belong in another story, maybe, or could have worked better in another story. But that being said, it does give us the Laszlo and Tallulah subplot, where Laszlo was obviously he was on the dumber end as far as the Daleks were concerned, and was put through the process of being genetically modified. But he managed to get away before all the work had been done on him, and as a result, he's dressed like the other pig slaves, and he can blend in with them enough that the Daleks don't question it when he snoops later.
Did they ever go into how that came about?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't really show the process. They just say that they've been working with DNA, which again I think is important because the modern audiences maybe don't have the knowledge that the Daleks are scientific geniuses. Like they really are. Like they know what they're doing. We just don't really see it in the modern run. So this is the first example of that. But we don't see how the pig slave thing happens, which told it happened, and they aren't able to complete their plan in this, at least the way Dalek Sec wants, without the help of the Doctor.
Yeah.
So Yeah. But anyway,
There's a few holes.
the Laszlo Tallulah thing is played wonderfully, and what I love about it is it's never played as like, that's not him, that's a monster, and like, you know.
I can't love you anymore.
Yeah, like,
you look like a
Laszlo is paranoid that Tallulah would like, and the way it's played is beautiful. He goes missing because he's taken by a pig slave, and then weeks later he's gone missing. She has no idea where he is, but every night before one of her shows, a little white rose is left on her makeup dresser, which is what he used to do. So she knows he's out there somewhere, but she's like, "Why won't you talk to me?"
Don't want that pig slave.
And I think they put a really good version of the depression forward in terms of like everyone's just getting on with it to earn money because that's all you can focus on.
Do, yeah.
Like even Tallulah, like
if you stop, you'll end up having no money and then you'll die.
She's been at the police. They don't care, and she's like, well, she's just gonna have to keep an ear to the ground. But in the meantime, she has to keep going. But she's both like charmed and devastated by the fact he's clearly out there still somewhere. So why won't he talk to her? Like, why is it? What's so bad that he can't come to her? And I think they play it really well. And I think the fact that he's the one who's paranoid. How could she ever love me? And she never once shows a sign of like, like it could never work. I mean, she's just there for it. Tallulah's good people.
She is good people.
Tallulah is good people. I also love the bit where she holds up the Dr. Martha and Solomon with the gun, and then it just cuts to her like chatting away in the dressing room, and they're all like in the doorway with their arms up. And the doctor's like the gun. She's like, "Oh, it's just a prop." And just throws it away and carries on. It's like you have no idea if they're a threat to you or not, but you clearly just needed to vent to someone about what's been going on. We of course also get a musical number.
Yeah.
You Put the Devil in Me. I don't hate it. I think it's shot badly.
It is.
It's shot really badly. There's a couple of good. There's a couple of cool shots. Dr. James Strong with the crane shot above them and everything is like that's interesting, but it never once feels like you're in a theatre. It feels like you're in an empty theatre that you're filming in.
It does.
There's a difference between it feeling like a theatre that exists and is living and breathing.
Yeah, there was no set design.
Yeah, it's just a
That's
yellow
what
curtain.
really bothered me, and because the costumes were so good and elaborate,
and the energy from the ensemble cast is really fun, especially because when some of them get speaking lines and they're really sort of playing it over the top. But it's like, no, sure, go for it.
Hey, toots!
It's funny. You're putting us in a position in time, and it's fun and daft and believable.
Then they're on a completely blank stage.
Yeah.
I mean, you've put all the money and effort into, there's a musical number, these costumes.
An original musical number.
And the prosthetics that they do later on. And it's like, guys, you could have put some, fancy lights on it. You could have borrowed...
Lit it! Just lit it! Yeah.
You could have borrowed some... I don't know, was Strictly a thing then? Could have borrowed some...
And I know it's the depression, but the fact that the Doctor seems to have the entire circle or the gods to himself to be experimenting on the mutant. It's like,
but also
how is the theatre making money? How are these dancers making money if there's no one coming to watch the show?
Let's be completely honest here. The types of people that were going to these shows were people that still had money. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't families. Oh, thank you. It wasn't families. Yeah. And there was those kind of showgirls. I mean, yeah, of course, sometimes it would be, a big fancy show and a cabaret and stuff. But let's be honest, it'd be gentlemen going.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And it didn't feel right at all.
It's a big misfire. It feels like, had that been in one of the Christmas specials, they would have gone
They would
all
nailed
out
it.
on it.
Yeah.
Because it would have been in all the trailers and...
But it's a two-parter,
and that's not to dislike Miranda Raisin's performance or Murray Gold's song or anything like that. They're all really good. It's just,
It's just you could have made it so much more effective.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Eric Loren as Mr. Diagras is a lot of fun. He gets a lot of flack for this, though, because he plays dual roles. And as Diagras, he's, I like the idea that he was in war. He fought in the First World War. He's like, no, I never want to be the bottom dog again. I'll do whatever the hell it takes to survive. And the Dalek kind of not admire him, but acknowledge that that's a common trait we share. You're different from the other humans. So when they decide that they're going to do the first Dalek-human hybrid, the first of this experiment,
Wow.
he gets
Sorry.
sorry, he gets Rule 34'd into Dalek sex dangly egg sacs, and which is, do you know what?
Come on.
Which, do you know what, is a cool visual, because it's just creepy as sin. Dalek sec opening up, and then this thing like sort of it's like a chrysalis almost, wasn't it? It's horrible.
It always makes me think of Men in Black.
It's a very Men in Black design, yeah. Because Dalek sec's freaking huge. Got massive tentacles. Got a really big brain. It's like, oh my, and he's bright green, which is different from the ones we've seen before.
Let's be honest, he's a hench Dalek.
Look at the size of the absolute unit.
What a unit!
Just don't put your head in its mouth, because then he'll sack you and put you in some Dragon Ball Z level creepiness here.
What the hell?
But Eric Laurent, to his credit, plays Dalek Sec, the second incarnation of Dalek Sec after he has been hybridized. And he makes a choice to talk like this. Now, I don't think that takes away from his performance, and I think he gives a really good job considering he is a mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like, as an actor, everything you have at your disposal, your body is your instrument, it's your tool, is what you use to tell the story. Actors with prosthetics work their arses off
of course,
to tell a story.
To show emotion through all the plastic.
He is completely cut off because the character has to be quite, not stoic, but he doesn't have elaborated gestures. He's not Tennant bounding around the room. He's not Anthony Ainley Panto kind of, strutting around. Like, the character's never had a body like this, so he plays it the right way, which is his movements are very kind of limited and delicate.
Yeah.
But also, expression-wise, all he has to work with is his mouth. That's all he's got. And it's in a really restrictive rubber, shape around the mouth and the jaw and the lips. And I think the eye looks great. I think the effects team do a great design. It's a cool design.
I really like it.
It's really memorable. It's a shame his little penis cheeks keep wiggling around. Let's be honest. They're very distracting, his little penis cheeks.
Look, I like his penis cheeks.
And it's 2007.
Why do they have to be so, Why do they have to be so wet, though?
Would you rather he have dry penis cheeks?
Well, kind of. They were glistening and I wasn't appreciating it.
It was 2007. So, I remember when this came out, our first comparisons chatting about it were Tony Harrison jokes.
He looks like he does look like Tony Harrison.
For those who don't know, there's a character in the sitcom The Mighty Boosh who is a little squid creature with a bulbous head, played by Noel Fielding, who literally is practically set into any set the character's in, so it's just his head sticking through a hole with this collar with crap tentacles on it and a bulbous pink head.
It's hilarious.
And two eyes, but same sort of thing, and it's just like, this is weird. It's Tony Harrison. I am a human Dalek. Not the design I would have gone for.
That's a really good impression.
We were working up against it. Mrs. Harrison wanted me home in time for tea. When it comes to the crunch. But as time has gone by, it's a really impressive practical effect.
I like it. I thought it looked cool. It's a good interpretation of what a Dalek would look like if it were part human. Because it is like a little tentacle squid man. Mm-hmm. Give him some arms. I mean, a Dalek is essentially a brain in a squid.
A brain in a squid? So a squid?
A squid brain.
So it's a squid?
Yeah. Yeah, a Dalek is a squid. Which is why squids are evil.
No.
Gross. Anyway.
Modern Daleks are squids. Old Daleks could be anything. From little fleshy heads in glass cases, or just lungs with a bit of string between them. or a green claw hand. It could be whatever they need to be.
Oh, yeah. I've forgotten where I was going with that point.
If they had to make a Dalek-human hybrid, you're glad they went this way because it looks interesting.
because, I mean...
I also like how it's the same suit, but it's just... Oh, because obviously it is, but it's just a bit stained. Sorry.
His brain is protruding because essentially it's a squid brain. And, you know, it doesn't have its own interpretation of legs, arms. So the fact that he is a person with a Dalek head, because a Dalek is just a head, really. I think it's really quite cool. You used to have a
12-inch character
like
figure.
A doll of it, and I thought it was really cool. I don't understand why people are so critical about it.
I think it's the penis cheeks, let's be honest.
It's silly.
They're distracting. The penis cheeks are distracting.
It's because they're moist.
Oh, no! So...
Am I wrong?
So throughout the story, obviously from part 2, Evolution of the Daleks onwards, Dalek sex mind begins to work differently. Because there's now... The survival element isn't driven by the need to kill everything else anymore.
Yeah.
And he posits that they've already prepped all of these humans for this process, but instead of replacing and rewriting their DNA with Dalek DNA, let's just put the Daleks into the humans. They will be better. The humans are dead. They're all the ones that they're using are all dead. But for the Dalek race to survive, which is what the Cult of Skaro was invented for, to find new ways of killing and surviving and expanding.
Yeah.
For the Dalek race to survive, why don't they take a leaf from humanity? Humanity, throughout all time, as far as the Daleks have encountered them, always managed to survive in some way and adapt.
So they want that.
So Dalek sex, look, let's encode Dalek DNA into those humans, but let's use the human DNA inside them and just merge together.
To make a better Dalek.
Yeah, let's not just basically make me 2.0.
Let's just not make me with legs and thumbs.
Yeah, let's find someone better. And the Doctor's obviously reluctant to help, but like Dalek sex appeal to him. Dalek sex appeal to him is enough that the Doctor realises.
I laugh like a witch.
Is enough. You laugh like Agatha Harkness.
I do. I kind of love it.
Is enough that the Doctor has noticed that like they've done horrible things to get to this point. But if this can change the direction of the Dalek race going forward and turn them into just a coexistent people with their own world, like you'll find them a planet or whatever.
Yeah.
If he can do that,
it's better than
letting them carry on the way they're carrying
Nazi
on.
tanks.
So essentially, he's like, do I let the Nazi tanks be Nazi tanks making Nazi non-tanks, or do I help them make way less Nazi non-tanks and put them somewhere where they can't hurt anyone?
I'm getting confused.
Yeah. Meanwhile, bitchy Daleks.
Let's talk about
because the other boys are like, we do not want this, because they can see how far this is from their like original belief
idea.
and mission statement. And we get that glorious shot of them in the sewers where they just like turn to look around to make sure no one's listening.
Yeah.
And I said, bitch.
That's what it makes me think of.
Oh my god, I love that. I love curse your surprising yet inevitable betrayal. That they twist it around. So once the process starts and like the lightning's about to hit, they're going to hit the Empire State soon after and everything.
They're like, oh nah.
They're like, nah, mate.
I'm rerouting it back to the way it was.
Not only that, they have built weaponry, and it's like the 1930s sort of. How would a Dalek gun work in the 30s? I guess it's a Tommy gun for reasons.
Tommy.
Which looks to me like it was created for the purpose of being a toy, and I don't think it ever was.
No, I don't think that's appropriate.
Are you kidding me? In the 60s, they had something called like Doctor Who's Dalek Exterminator gun or something, and it was a gun
Exterminate your friends!
It was a gun you used to kill Daleks.
Oh.
And it's like a big sci-fi toy gun, basically, and it's got Dalek like stuff and Doctor Who insignia on the packaging.
Because I got a Dalek on the front going, no!
No, but it's called Doctor Who's Dalek like killer gun or whatever. Jesus. Implying that like Billy Bartle's running around going, oh, Chesterfield, get behind me! I'm going to waste these sons of bitches! I'm going to murk you, fool! Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, that's weird.
No. Not Billy.
Oh, no, Harry.
Not Billy.
But yeah, so it's
the way they turn and look at each other is just like
delightful.
Just hilarious.
The operators are having fun.
They are
Making this look as
and I think that's fun
catty as possible.
Because it kind of shows that the Daleks aren't even opposed to going against each other.
Yeah. Especially when, like, these four have been created to look for a way for the continued survival of the Dalek race.
Yeah.
If they're like, I know Sek's our leader, but, like, what he's doing isn't Daleks.
We don't like his sex appeal.
We don't like his sex appeal.
This is a very silly episode.
But
I like it. But I have a question.
Why does the Doctor twice randomly go, "Kill me"? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's
hate everything.
Just
Kill me.
For the trailers.
No, that's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
Also, he ends up on the top of the Empire State when he gets struck by the lightning, so there's a little bit of Time Lord DNA in the new hybrids, so at the end they actually question the orders they're being given because they have some free will left in them.
But then they all die.
But then they all get killed because of reasons.
I mean, they couldn't have gone on anyway because they were technically dead anyway. But
why?
How did the Daleks get in the sewer? How did they get in there? Pretty sure that manhole isn't big enough for a Dalek. It's a genuine question.
You've just got to squeeze.
Suck it in.
I regret that second bagel for breakfast.
A minute on the lips.
Oh, God damn it.
Is a year on the panels.
Is a year on the etheric beam locators.
But do you know, I was going to say...
They're Dalek bumps.
No, don't go into that.
Already with superior Dalek technology, and I notice breasts.
For God's sake. We've been through that already, let's leave it.
Yeah, but it's still the best thing to come out of the 90s.
It is very funny. I was going to say, how did nobody notice or check up on this? That, you know, people are going missing and the which building is it? Empire State Building is being built at a miraculous rate. But it was during the Great Depression, so nobody had time to check up on these things.
Well,
nobody
they just didn't care.
They just didn't care. They didn't have...
People had bigger things to worry about in their own lives.
Which I think is really interesting. I think it's a really good period for them to do that in. Yeah, I think it's really...
And through Solomon, who, bless him, tries to be the better man and reach out with actual compassion and is exterminated on the spot for it.
Yeah.
And thanks to people like Frank and that, we get to see sort of the attitude of the time. And I think double check the actor's name. Hugh Quarshie, who plays Solomon, and Miranda Raisin, who plays Tallulah, and Andrew Garfield, who plays Frank, especially those three really help deliver what you're saying. Here is a snapshot of what life was like at this time in this place.
Yeah, I mean...
They all do a really good job.
The love of her life has disappeared, and she can't do anything about it, because if she does, she'll be jobless, she'll be homeless, and it's like, what do you do in that situation? Keep calm and carry on.
They do some really good work. They production wise, they make Wales look like New York where they need to. It works. Central Park works.
Yeah.
The Empire State Building, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure Doctor Who Confidential for that episode when it went out, they make a big point of showing the filming at the edge of the Empire State Building. Sorry, no, the Statue of Liberty. It's just a stony wall in a car park down the road from the studios.
I mean...
But the way they moved
the
the shots,
spent all of their money on that bloody musical number. Isn't it obvious?
Nope.
All the money.
All the money. Yeah, it ends with death and destruction, because it inevitably will do. Freema doesn't get a lot to do in this one. She's more the proactive classic companion. This is, I think, the first story of this series where you could take Martha out and put any companion in and it would just be sort of the same for them.
Yeah, I could imagine Rose being in that.
Yeah, or
in that story,
anyone
or
pop any companion in the story.
Jamie in that story. You could very easily.
It feels like the story's been written before the writers got to know the companion script.
Yeah.
Which is not a dig at Helen Raines' work. It's just sort of considering Martha is very much like the current of why everything's happening and the actual emotional through line of the series. This is sort of the first story where it's like it could be anyone.
Yeah.
But
I enjoy it.
I enjoy it too. It doesn't deserve the flack it gets.
No, it really doesn't. I was looking forward to it.
Is that the case for our next story?
Oh, jeez.
So the Lazarus Experiment. The Doctor goes to drop Martha off, and she is understandably standoffish. Last series establishes really well, like Sarah Jane's POV of like, just one day it just stops.
You just
and how the hell do you reconcile?
How do you get over it?
Yeah, that's happening here. Like the Doctor's like, well, I told you it was going to be one trip. Between three. Thanks. Martha's like, yeah, cheers.
Thanks. See you, bye.
Thanks. Yeah. Pick my knickers up off the maiden and flash them around. Thanks.
Oh my god, that makes me cringe.
They're clean.
I know, but jeez.
And just briefly catches a glimpse on the TV of a man saying he's going to change what it means to be human, and curiosity peaks. By sheer coincidence, Tish, who is wonderful. Whenever we see Tish, she's great. Gugu Mbatha-Raw plays her. Whenever we see her, she's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
A proper lovely addition, and she's like the one family member, like, bless Leo, but we don't see enough of him. She's the one family member where I'm like, I like this person in Martha's family. This is a nice person. Bit ignorant, but, like, not horrible.
Yeah. The classic... The only thing about her is that they have the classic sister banter of, like, arguing and stuff.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And Tish is working now, like, she's got a job working as basically PR person, getting the events organised for Professor Richard Lazarus, who has created a machine that will... well, he doesn't explain it. He says it'll change what it means to be human, and then they go to the soiree, the demonstration of the scientific event. Mm-hmm. Doctor brings his black tie and makes a point about bad things.
He brings it, but he doesn't wear it.
Bad things always happen when he wears this suit, and it's like you wore it once last series. Is it? It's a bit early to be doing callbacks, isn't it? Considering the next time he wears it, bad things happen again, but that doesn't happen until after this series is finished. So, which is why, in case you're wondering, following suit with the action figures we occasionally put out, why have you not put the Tuxedo Tenant? Because it's not really important to this particular aesthetic.
I think it is.
No, he will be when we next see him in the tuxedo, and we will also be opening a figure that is brand new. But, yeah, so they get to the event, and Dr. Lazarus, Professor Lazarus, and his colleague / lover, I don't think they ever say, based on the surnames, they're definitely not married.
Yeah.
But Thelma Barlow plays Lady Thor, who is... she's wonderful in the brief screen time she gets. You get this sense of like actual accomplishment and achievement, but she's like, and think of all the money we'll make, and like that's her angle on this. Whereas Lazarus is a bit more like, yes, I can't wait to be a gajillionaire, but also I've mostly done this because I want to be young again. Richard Lazarus is played under heavy prosthetics for the first 5 minutes by Mark Gatiss.
Hey, Mark Gateau.
Mark Gateau. We quite like Mark.
Love Mark.
Full disclosure, I know Mark. He's bloody lovely.
He is so lovely.
And this is interesting because this is the first time, again, to my memory, that a writer for the show has then been in it. Because he wrote 2 episodes, one for each of the last series, and this is the first time where it's like, now he's a character in it.
Are any of the other writers actors, though?
Good point. I don't believe so. I mean, some like Toby Whithouse is an actor and stuff, but like they don't really... There's not been any that I can think of where they played a prominent role in the episodes. But yeah, Mark is a writer and actor, and it sort of made sense. I remember this came out. because I'm usually a Gentleman fan, when it first came out, I was like, of course, like, if he's associated with the show, why not?
Mm.
But I always got confused when I was young, because I was like, surely he wrote this one, right? It's like, no. No, did not write this one.
No, it's quite obvious that he didn't write this one.
Yeah, I mean, the script's not bad at all. Stephen Greenhorn writes this one, but I just...
It was a great idea.
It feels...
That was
like, I don't know.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit.
It's a great idea.
It feels... It doesn't feel like a Doctor Who story. It feels like a really cool idea for a horror film.
Like a short...
Not even a short, like... And I say
short.
this with absolute respect. It feels like a great idea for a sci-fi original or straight-to-DVD or streaming horror movie.
Yeah, it's a bit...
In terms of, like, it's a cool idea that would be most enjoyable as a slightly under-budget creature feature.
Well, it's already been one, hasn't it? Because it's like The Fly.
Yeah, well, it's obviously it's absolutely paying homage to The Fly. Absolutely. Because for those who are confused, if you like, which episode are you talking about, guys? I can't remember from what you're saying. It's been years. Richard Lazarus goes into his machine and wibbly, 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 and it starts to go a bit wrong, and the Doctor is on hand and he fixes it as best he can. And out steps Richard Lazarus, who is 76 years old and reborn. His
name is Bill Wilkins.
That's a reference no one's going to get.
Yeah.
Well, some people will, but they won't understand why you said it at that point.
If you get it, comment it below.
Anyway. Our cat Dolly is looking at us judgmentally, like, what the hell are you both doing?
What are you talking about? Shut up.
So he steps out and he's been made young. Oh, Lazarus, rebirth. Ah, that's my first issue with the script. His name's so obvious, it's so on point. Call it the Lazarus Experiment and have the project be called Project Lazarus, but he should have been called, like, you know, Richard Thor or something like.
Richard
do you know what I mean? Chinnery even, because it's the same wig.
That's the reference I was making.
So for the League of Gentlemen movie, League of Gentlemen's Apocalypse, the character of Matthew Chinnery, the vet, Mr. Chinnery, that Mark Gatiss plays, he got a new wig because it was just a better one for like film quality. A new wig for this character, this blonde wig. The wig was that good and decent quality, and obviously, like, he or the production owned it, that then that wig went on tour with them during League of Gentlemen Are Behind You in 2006 for the Chinnery stuff. It's the same wig. He then wears that wig in this as well as Professor Lazarus.
Next to his bed.
And I think the same wig was then used for the 2017 specials.
My God, really?
It's a good wig. It's a good...
Jeez.
Do you follow Karen Gillan on Instagram?
I do.
So all the recent filming she's been doing, yeah... she's got long red hair, right?
Yeah, that's all big.
They're extensions made from her hair that she had shaved off in 2013, 2012 when she was making the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's crazy.
Because she had it turned into a wig for the Comic-Con reveal where she just took her hair off in 2013.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then since, she's used it as a wig and then had it cut down and turned into extensions to be used when she films.
Like what?
Because, we need to find extensions that match your hair. Well, I have hair made from
my hair in a box.
I have extensions made from my hair, so here you go.
That makes sense.
Same with this wig.
A little creepy, but...
good quality wig.
I get it.
Extra fun, because Chinnery, the vet from League of Gentlemen, is based in terms of like performance and style off of the characters from All Creatures Great and Small, specifically Tristan, played by Peter Davison.
Which is, oh my
so
God.
It's like, there you go.
What's that game? Like 30 degrees...
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
6 degrees of...
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mark plays this really well, and we're not just saying that because we're biased. He does, because it's... You have to sell that you're an elderly man. In all that prosthesis. And also I feel like Lazarus was a warm-up for the makeup team for later in the series.
Yeah. Because
this series has 3 uses of, like, distinct elderly makeup.
Yeah.
The next one's coming up at the end of The Family of Blood, and a flash forward to the future that they would have together.
Could have been.
And the next one is in Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. And both look really good. And it looks really good here. The way he's shot, and the way the makeup is, the costuming. Mark Gatiss is a very tall man.
He is.
he does not look like a tall man before the de-aging. He looks smaller. He looks frailer.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
The way he plays it isn't, I'm putting on an old man voice. Like, it's, the physicality and everything is just, something's a bit off. From like, you know, what you would normally be looking for. You're normally looking for a young actor wearing rubber face.
You sound a bit off. You must be old.
No, you know what I mean.
No,
You, there's a slight disconnect with your brain. Like, I don't think anyone is ever surprised when they're watching someone in elderly prosthetics when you say, oh, that actor's actually like 20, that actor's 30. Most times you'll be like, oh, right, yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah.
Even if the makeup's amazing, you're like, yeah, I can see that. Very rarely does it
Shock
fool
you. Yeah.
And I think here I was impressed by like how different it is. But it's still his face.
Yeah.
And then Lazarus, you get the sense is this kind of quiet, frail guy until he makes that really gross pass at Tish about her perfume. She's like, it's soap. And he's just like, oh, you dirty old man.
It sounds like you need some soap in the mouth.
But then
dirty old man.
Tish isn't exactly morally sound either, because later on when he's like, you know, younger and more attractive, and he's sort of like, come have a quick word, she's like, well, alright, fair enough.
Yeah, it's on the roof,
and you can't tell whether or not it's because she's like, actually, he's a bit of alright, or whether she's like, oh my god, this really rich guy who's about to get even richer is hitting on me.
Gentle.
There's an element of gold digger about those scenes, I find.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, like I said, Tish is one of the people I'd hang out with more from Martha's Family, the one I'd like to see more scenes with. But she's still she's a bit unscrupulous. It's like, come on, Tish. She's very opportunistic.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that maybe that's because, you know, like their mum's very, very kind of like high standard, very picky, very
highly strung.
And Martha's obviously like the golden child of the family. Like, she's not put on a pedestal, but she's achieved so much.
She's a doctor, almost.
But she's achieved so much. There's almost this sense of competition with Tish that's unspoken, maybe.
Yeah. Whereas the brother's just like, hello!
Leo's just there, and I kind of appreciate that. He's sort of just like...
Isn't it implied that he's got a kid, though? Because in the first episode...
I think later on we see that he's got a partner and a kid.
Because in the first episode he was getting ready for the party on the phone, and there was a lady in the background that had a kid.
Yeah, young dad. But anyway, so Leo's in this as well. Reggie H comes back. And also Ajoa Ando as Francine Jones. Now, we've talked before, in part one, about the fact that I think she's a phenomenal actor, but I've never really liked Francine Jones.
I don't think he's supposed to.
As a character. No, but like, as in... Oh, it's just not... No, it didn't quite work out for me. And this and the next episode are why.
Yeah.
We'll go more into it in the next episode, but like, her immediate standoffishness with the Doctor.
She's immediately hostile.
Like, immediately. It's sort of like, whoa, okay. That's...
Where's that come from?
Huh. Now, I understand because plot arc-wise, they want her to be mistrusting of him and overprotective of Martha, which is absolutely a believable motivation, but it just feels like it comes out of nowhere without any precedent. She's obviously very distrusting of men, or very done with men,
which makes
as evidenced
sense,
by like their relationship breaking down. But she's also, it's just really odd. Imagine if you met someone for the very first time and you immediately just treated them like you thought they were crap.
I do that all the time.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, imagine if someone came up to you and said, excuse me, if you got the time, you just went, buy yourself a watch.
Yeah, you got a watch.
But you know what I mean? Like, that was her attitude. And that's really odd. And I know it's in service of trying to set up the suspicion, which they play into in this, when she's approached by credited, mysterious man, who is played by Bertie Cavill. Hey. Wonderful Bertie Cavill.
The smell of rebellion.
Yeah, for those who know the Matilda musical, if you have the soundtrack version of it, Bertie Cavill's the OG Trunchbull, and he's phenomenal.
Incredible, perfect.
We got to see him live twice, didn't we? He was really good. The idea is we're setting up that someone on behalf of the government, Mr. Saxon specifically, who also apparently has funds in Lazarus's experimentation, and that will come back later. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry, it's
Sorry, that's hurting me like a bit.
Sorry.
I'm a very old man now. Lazarus has ties with Saxon, and Saxon is obviously present here in some way. This Mr. Saxon we've heard mentioned before. And in this case, it's this man approaching Francine to be like, is your daughter talking to the doctor? We have reason to believe he's a very dangerous man. We need any information you've got. You're like, okay. But it's the fact that Francine is so immediately willing to spy on her daughter, which is exacerbated in the next episode, that makes me sort of go like, really? Do you know what I mean? Like, we just have the horrid events go on and her be suspicious of Martha's willingness to dive into the danger with this bloke that she's never met before, and have her question that. But she hates him immediately. So aside from obviously all that stuff, we're hitting a point where we don't have an alien in this one at all.
That's quite interesting.
Like it's as we noted earlier on, like I think this is maybe the first time since Black Orchid that's happened.
Oh, there's a little princess right behind you.
There is. First time since Black Orchid that's happened.
Yeah.
Because the monster in this is Lazarus's coded DNA signature. Features like a rejected evolutionary path, i.e., we evolved the way we did to how we are now. But what if we'd gone another route? And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a really cool, creepy monster creature feature B movie in here. Because the chamber's like, we will reset your DNA, but we're also resetting this potential evolution and escalating it.
Which is a really cool idea.
It works, but it's also like, so a potential evolution of man is a human-faced giant scorpion beast with a stinger tail that has two prongs that we never actually see it use, but apparently sucks the life out of the living things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
That's potential evolution for humanity. Like,
why...
At what point was that where we might have got... Because the idea is, like, here's how evolution went, and at this point, we went this way and became Homo sapiens. But we could have gone this way and become giant scorpions with life-draining stingers.
Yeah, what
and
was
human
the turning
faces
point?
For some reason.
What was the turning point, I wonder?
It's odd. The creature... I don't think the CGI of the creature is aged particularly well, but then again, that's never stopped us enjoying all the stories we've watched over the last, 27 years worth of the show's content anyway.
I don't think it was great at the time.
I think it's shot really well, if that makes any sense. I don't think Richard Clark, the director, misshoots the creature.
No.
And I also don't hate the design of the creature. I just think there's something off about its execution, essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas, the werewolf last series looked a tiny bit ropey, but only a tiny bit. It doesn't detract from what function it serves and how scary it is.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's just there's something a little off. I don't mind Lazarus just being all in on, I guess what I do now is take people to one side, drain their life, and then carry on with things.
Yum!
Because you do genuinely get the sense that he has spent the last several decades planning to live forever.
Yeah, and nothing's going
to
stop
become
it.
more and more desperate. And he's just taken this as, so be it. If this is how it's going to happen, I'll do it.
And nobody's going to stop me. Except the doctor.
This is interesting. Executive producer Russell T Davies has stated that he directed writer Stephen Greenhorn to base this episode on a typical Marvel Comics style plotline. A good old mad scientist with an experiment gone wrong and an outrageous supervillain on the loose. So yeah, I see that, and I think they achieved that really well.
Yeah.
I think the Lazarus machine is nice. It's obviously a big allusion to The Fly, and
yeah.
And, there's a Jekyll and Hyde element here. A Jekyll and Hyde sort of meets Dracula kind of element to the transformation.
Just chuck them all in.
There's a lot that works. And I like the thing with Southwark Cathedral, the idea that, when he was a kid, that was where they sheltered from the bombs. So he's always kind of stayed near it. The laboratory is near it. There is a model of it in his office.
Yeah, it makes him feel safe.
Yeah, because it's just this reminder that, his life could have ended when he was a kid.
Yeah.
and it was out of his hands. So his decision to keep living and keep doing amazing things, new discoveries, making money, personal profit, banging his PR person, or if that doesn't work, draining the life out of her. But I mean, it sort of shows the turn to supervillain when he immediately drains Mrs. Thor, where he just takes her life. He just doesn't
after
care.
having a smooch.
And being disgusted because she's old. It's just like, oh, God. Essentially, Richard Lazarus was never a good person.
No.
But what happens gives him the excuse to be a bad person.
Yeah.
It's a Norman Osborn kind of situation.
God, yeah.
I think that's achieved quite well.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. For me, the things that take me out of this episode are the immediate escalation of the Francine situation.
Yeah.
Like how quick it is that she's just like... I could understand Martha running in to go save the Doctor and her being like, why? What's so special? What's going on? You're going to be in danger. Stay back here. But I could understand her being thingy from that point.
Yeah.
But the fact the first two conversations are like, so who's this man? So are you together? Well, why aren't you... Like, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? You and I. With Jackie, it makes sense for her to be like that with the Doctor because Rose disappeared for a year.
Yeah.
According to the timeline established in this episode, Leo's 21st was last night.
Yeah.
So Martha left the party, and her mum's a bit annoyed that she left without saying goodbye, despite the fact that everyone was having an argument on the street. So no wonder Martha went, oh, sod this. And as far as they knew, went home.
Yeah. What bothers me is that when she's really, really annoyed that Martha's going back in to save the Doctor, she's a doctor.
Yeah, that's what she does.
That's
but also
like
the fact she's not bothered by the giant scary scorpion monster that they've definitely seen that gives Leo a concussion.
Exactly. It's like
she's bothered by Martha being near this man.
And that just
it's not odd.
It's not like believable at all.
Yeah, and again, that's not a Joe Ando's fault at all. It feels like there's a couple of episodes missing.
Yeah.
It feels like there's at least one other story set at home where they meet the Doctor missing. I like the face-off in the cathedral at the end. I think dialogue-wise, all that's really well done, because by that point it is the whole... I mean, for Christ's sake, it's in a cathedral. We're in the third act of a horror movie. Someone's going to die. Like, that's the vibe it gives off from the beginning. And I like the idea that he dies, but that... Because the idea is that, like, his DNA is going, settled, glitch! Settled, glitch! And that's how it's working. So that, yes, he dies, but then the DNA goes, wait a minute! And he bursts out the ambulance around the corner because the part of him that's been, like, awoken isn't dead yet.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm still alive, keep going. So it reminded me of the recent Immortal Hulk comics. Where Bruce Banner dies, and then at night, the Hulk shows up. Because it's like, I'm not dead.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's creepy.
I appreciate Mark's flailing.
Yeah, a lot of flailing, a lot of bone crunching noises in this.
Yes, a lot of facial expressions, which are wonderful, and did not make me laugh at all.
We were chuckling. But it's just because, I think it's because it's the behind the curtain thing, isn't it? It's like, we know the reality of him having to thrash around on a stone floor.
Just imagine it being quite amusing.
While the director goes like, alright, just a bit longer, a bit more, another take of that, please.
Hilarious.
I like the setup of the Mr. Saxon thread here, but I just... Francine doesn't win a fan in this episode for me. And I think the reason why I don't enjoy this story too much is because that arc takes me out of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, 42. So this is Chris Chibnall's first 42. Script, writing for the story, right for the show. Having worked on Torchwood before this point. Is this his very first script writing for the show? I'm going to double check. What's the plot of 42, Boo?
The plot of 42 is that the Doctor... Oh, also the Doctor and Martha, they are a team now. The Doctor accepts,
Oh yeah, at the end he's like, come on then. Yeah.
And at the beginning of 42, they're just chatting, and he sorts her phone out like he did with Rose, so she could call anywhere. She's always got signal, and they end up on this ship essentially. It's really hot, and they walk around. And they're like, "Oh my god,
SS Pentalion.
What is going on? Why is it so flipping hot?" And then this team kind of burst in out of nowhere, wondering who they are, but then they're more concentrated on the fact that they need to get the engines moving, and they're essentially just like thrown into the frying pan, aren't they?
Well, out of the frying pan.
And into the fire.
And just before the fire, because they can't go back into where the TARDIS is, because it's like...
been shut off.
The corridors are basically like now filling up with the radiation and the heat of the sun.
Yes.
Because the SS Pentalion is
our sun.
Floating around a sun. Yeah, because we established it's a different,
it's a different
galaxy.
Yeah, because the Doctor's like, oh, you're very far away from home.
So, no disrespect to the actors involved, but we're just going to refer to them all as the crew. Because this story suffers from a huge problem from the bat. Basic premise. A ship orbiting a sun, it's going to crash into the sun within 42 minutes because of various technological failures. So the Doctor and Martha are like, right, we're going to fix this, and we'll all be safe.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a crew member, husband of the captain, is seemingly possessed by something that's intent on killing them all.
Yes.
Cool, simple sci-fi premise. Great. Brilliant. Problem. It should be a two-parter.
Yeah.
Problem is, too much happens in one episode. And when I say too much happens, I mean every scene is an action set piece bar about two. There's fast pace, tension, shouting, screaming, people being killed, people getting locked in airlocks, people trying to complete equations and get through these doors before they all get locked in and murdered. And it feels like there's no breathing room. If it were a two-parter, we could meet the crew, spend some time with the crew.
Yeah.
Martha and the Doctor arrive. Or Martha and the Doctor arrive and all this action happens intercut with flashbacks to the week before on the ship. And learn about when Corwin first started to come down with something, and learn about why Captain McDonnell is... Why she's played great. I think everyone does a good job in here. The cast do a really good job.
They're working with what they're given.
But they're very much working with what they're given, and what they're given is scream, run around, and look panicked all the time. That's what they're given, and that's kind of it, really. Each character only really has a couple of lines that show what kind of person they are, and it's so fleeting. It's so fleeting and so brief. And
the fact that they're a crew, they all have a uniform. They just look the same.
Yeah, they're all dressed the same. They're all in brown and khaki pants. Two of our crew members, the two who remain alive at the end, which is Riley and... I want to double check.
And other Riley. Riley 1 and Riley 2.
I can't actually see who it is. Is it Dev? I don't know.
That's the point. It's like they're so undistinguishable.
Yeah, it's not Ashton. Yeah, I think it's Dev.
It's hard to
they
differentiate.
And again, it's not the actor's fault.
No,
but
it's not. No, it's not.
If everyone's going to be in these red corridors with brown and grey metals everywhere, and it's going to be steamy, and everyone's going to be covered in sweat, and you want there to be some visual distinction between them, either in variety of the casting.
Yeah.
Because two of our leads almost look like the spitting image of each other, except one's got longer hair. Or you do colour coding in some way. You have costume items that separate them from the others.
Yeah.
I remember. So problem: too much action crammed into 47-minute runtime. Solution: make it a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
Problem: we had a two-parter not one series ago about a crew on a spaceship stuck around a glowing, impossible thing in space being attacked by a possessed crew member.
Yeah.
Solution: release this story in Series 4 instead.
Yeah.
Give it enough time between Impossible Planet and 42 for it to feel fresh.
It's the same.
I mean, the Doctor wears a spacesuit, there's stuff with people being locked out in airlocks, there's a possession. Corwin is possessed by an element that says "burn with me," and then people get burnt alive. Flames, heat, possession.
If you
the devil. It's.
If you didn't know, you would think that they were connected.
But there's when Corwin's in like the X-Men machine earlier on, and he starts to come to. There's a stinging music which is very similar to one of the themes in the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. Now, the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit has one of the most distinct scores of all of modern Doctor Who, but it still has sort of other bits and pieces that aren't as distinct, including these creeping string sections. And there's one of those when Corwin starts to stir awake both times. You're like, are you implying it's the devil?
The devil?
Now, of course they're not. Of course Maury Gold's not doing that. Of course Graham Harper, the director's wonderful Graham Harper directing. No one's doing that. Chibnall is not trying to do that in his script. Right. It's just too soon after.
It is.
It's way too soon. The core idea, brilliant. Turns out that the sun that they've been harvesting energy from, like literally siphoning energy off the sun, illegally it turns out, for colonies back home or whatever, is alive. It's a living creature and it's screaming in pain. So what does it do?
It's like heart or something.
So what does it do? Possess people and start to kill off the crew. Hoping, I think, I don't know if it ever clarifies that, hoping that when they're all dead, the ship will then just drift back into its surface and it can take the energy back. But if the sun can possess them and make them go, burn, and be eloquent enough to be like, I'm going to put a helmet on so that I can look at you without blasting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's clearly intelligent.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it say something?
It's clearly intelligent, so why wouldn't it just...
Speak your truth, bro.
Why wouldn't it just do it, instead of just fannying about, walking around the ship? Just... Why would you even bother putting a helmet on?
True. But, like... And apparently it's capable of multiple possessions, because it takes Ashton as well, so 2 people get possessed.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor gets possessed. Another strong thing.
And you get a possession, and you get a possession.
There are a couple things that work really well. When the Doctor gets possessed, he's holding it off as best he can.
Yeah.
And he's able to kind of, like, figure out what it is and what it wants. It's the sun, it's in pain, it's scared, it's dying, it's screaming, and it just wants to be whole again and be left alone. And Tennant plays it like the Doctor is wielding this horrific thing inside him that is going to basically kill him.
Yeah.
Or use him to kill everyone else. And when he says he's scared, you believe it.
Yeah. And
Freema Agyeman, amazing job in this. Once she gets out of all of the stuff she has to do in this, she plays it brilliantly. But especially when she's by his side and she's suddenly like, "No, you're going to be okay. I'm a doctor. We're going to sort this out." And she's like, for the first time, she's in charge.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a good person. She's terrified, but she's putting on a brave face for her patient, for her friend.
Yeah. This, having seen this now as an adult, I appreciate that performance way more now.
Oh yeah. Other stuff that works really well, the bit where she gets separated, where she and I think it's Dev, I don't know, Riley, sorry, they end up in the escape pod, they hide in it, and then one of the things tries to eject them to effectively kill them.
Yeah.
Because they'll just drift into the sun eventually, and it takes the Doctor having to like get outside in the spacesuit and be in that field to like turn on the tractor beam or whatever to bring it back into position. It's the only way to do it, and that's when he gets possessed. That is great. And if this was a 2-parter, that would be one hell of a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. Martha drifting off into space.
That shot.
Toward a sun. The silence of it. Yeah, where he's like at the glass saying like, "I'll save you, I'll save you."
And she can't understand what he's saying.
And it pulls away from the camera, like her pod pulls away from the camera, meaning that the sun behind them bleeds into the edge of frame. That's terrifying. That's so scary. And it's resolved in 5 minutes. And it's sort of like, The episode's called 42 because when they arrive, there's 42 minutes till collision with the, I guess, however near they need to be to the sun in that ship that they'll all die. So, okay, ticking clock element. But the time is played with fast and loose.
Yeah.
It's near accurate, but it's not quite. Which is why I think it should have been a 2-part. Part 1 could be called 42 because that's how long they've got. And they managed to stave it off or whatever, this, that and the other. But then you hit not by the end of the 42 because you can fill it with flashbacks. and then the cliffhanger happens with the drifting off, and like another one wakes up on the ship or whatever.
Yeah.
And then part 2 could have been called 24, and it could have been the remaining 24 minutes. So you would have sort of kind of like bookended it.
Good. I mean,
and then Jack Bauer could have killed the possessed sun people by shoving a towel down the throat.
I think this episode you could have.
Sorry, go on.
I think you could have. It's another one of those where details were made for Martha, like the helping the Doctor.
And the reason to talk to her mum to confront this thing.
Yeah.
All that works in terms of Martha.
But it could have been any companion.
I don't know. I don't know because her having that bedside manner, her having that staring at someone who might die any second and reassuring them they're going to be okay is something very unique to a Doctor.
That's what I'm saying. Apart from that,
yeah,
it could really be.
Oh, you mean the story could have happened to any companion?
Yeah,
okay, no, I get that.
Like I could imagine Donna, but so I think they could have easily made it a 2-parter in another series.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Now,
if they took that element out, where it's personal to Martha, and put something else in.
And there's some really strong stuff. Michelle Collins as Captain McDonnell, like when she has that first moment where she's proper talking to the possessed Corwin, and she's like, "You're my husband," and she doesn't seem to quite ever grasp that he's gone. Like part of him might be in there somewhere. That's another thing. We don't get to meet Corwin.
Yeah.
We never meet him.
So you don't build up that
loss, that fear.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. The biggest problem with this episode is, say it again with me, people, here we go, the Francine storyline. Martha calls home to get a trivia answer off of her mum. Because that's great. All the doors are locked. It's basically security questions. So if the ship was ever commandeered by like pirates or whatever, like looking to steal it and take the cargo, then they wouldn't be able to get through everything because everything had locked down if they answered the questions incorrectly. And to make it extra difficult, the crew all got drunk like 9 months ago and came up with the questions. So like it's just what they would know, which leads to some sort of fun moments before it's like, what's your favourite colour? Purple. Wait, did I say orange? And it's like, oh god, it's like, no! That stuff's kind of fun. And like, pre-download, who had the most number one singles worldwide? Is it the Beatles or Elvis Presley? And they genuinely don't know. And because the Doctor sort of makes a point of being like, oh, does that remix count as reference to the bloody, Little Less Conversation? And it's like, that's funny. So,
does that count?
I think it does, because there was a whole thing when that came out of it, like being Elvis has got a number one in like 2005 or whatever, long after he's dead. So it was kind of a joke about that at the time, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
So Martha phoning up Francine to be like, hi, so you got any info? Of course everyone's going to be like, right, so what's going on? What's happening? I haven't seen you since last night. Where's it? I've left messages, you haven't got back to me. Like, who's this Doctor then? I buy that. Martha calling to say goodbye to her mum because she knows she's probably going to die in the escape pod, but she doesn't want to give that away. I really buy that.
Yeah.
It reminded me, there's a bit in James Straczynski's Spider-Man run where, like, in the Morlon storyline, the guy who's basically going to kill him, like, no matter what, the Energy Vampire guy who shows up. And, like, he's been surviving for as long as he can, and he manages to get away from him long enough that he gets to this phone, and he's got, like, a couple quarters, and he puts them in, and he just calls Aunt May, and he just has a really mundane conversation with her.
Oh.
Because in his head he's like, this is probably the last I'm going to talk to her. And he basically says, he slips in like, I love you, right? She's like, of course I do, I love you too. He's like, good, I just needed to know that because and then like the money runs out in the call, and he just hangs up, and he hears like screams, and he's like, then he turns back knowing that what's about to happen will probably be the end of his life. Spoilers, he survives. And it leads,
of course, because he's Spider-Man.
And it leads to that absolutely phenomenal bit later on where obviously she could tell from that conversation that maybe something was up, so she goes to check on him. And it's after it's all wrapped up, and that's when she finds him on the bed, unconscious, out of it, costume on the floor. Like, beaten and bruised.
Completely naked.
Because he goes home, when he finishes the thing, he goes home, he has a pee, he has a shower, he bandages himself up, he flops onto the bed and just conks out.
Well, that's a question. What would a superhero do if they really needed a way?
Well, they go to the bathroom. We are going off on a tangent.
Oh, yes.
We'll do a whole separate video.
about how superheroes pee.
But I like Freema's performance, and I love Martha's like realization of, oh my god, I'll just have gone missing and they'll never know.
Yeah.
So at least this, and spurned on by Riley, is like, talk to her, like give your mum a call. And I'm like, how does he know about the mobile? I guess because she's using it to talk to the doctor for the quiz things.
Yeah.
But it's I completely buy her reason for doing it, and her sudden dismay of like, I'll die and they'd never know, and they'd always never know.
Why
that's going to follow them forever? They'll be like, Martha just went missing one day, and do you know what I mean? Like, that is scary.
Why didn't she give the phone to the guy to call his mum?
Because they lost contact 6 years ago. But it's really sneaky.
Yeah, but
Probably doesn't know a number.
It's no good.
No good. But then they talk. Then Francine. Of course, Francine tries to loop it back to the Doctor, and it's revealed that there is, and I'll see how she's credited, Sinister Woman. So Bertie Cavell was Mysterious Man, and Elise Dutoit is Sinister Woman. And she's credited as such because she's in the background, and they've tapped the phone call.
I mean, she's quite sinister.
But they've tapped the phone call. This is where I'm like, really? Like, already? You spoke to Martha like an hour before.
Yeah.
Now, I know they set up in the last one that she was given contact. Like, get in touch with us if you hear anything.
Yeah.
But it still seems really weird that, like, as far as Francine's concerned, it's been maybe like a day, 2 days since Martha went away.
Yeah.
Martha's behaving out of sorts. Yeah, but also, it's weird that, like, it's set up in the series that her family are really dependent on her to be, like, the spine of everything.
Yeah.
But they don't appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
The family can't function without Martha being a level head to occasionally tell you to shut up, you do this, I'll get you to arrive half hour late, and you do this, that, and la la la. So the moment she's acting out of sorts, Francine's mentality comes across as less protective of her daughter and more selfish. That, why aren't you at my beck and call? What's going on? Has this doctor taken you away from us? What's going? And it's like, whoa! And it just further makes me dislike her. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, imagine if none of the Doctor Who stuff had happened and Martha just like got a boyfriend. Would the boyfriend be pushed away immediately because Francine's just like, well, what's going on then? How do you know him? Like, yeah, well, I don't know him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just very
unnatural.
It shows how Martha is the standout in her family. She's the only one with a level head. She gets carried away by a crush in this arc.
Yeah. But
she's mature enough to be like, yeah, no, screw that. By the end of it, and make the better decision and make the right decision.
Yeah.
But it's odd. Jackie was flawed. She wasn't nasty.
Yeah, but that's
you know what I mean.
That's
Mickey was flawed, but he wasn't horrible. What I'm saying is, you can have a flawed family and relationship unit around you in these stories that would give you, the viewer, enough justification as to why the character would be like, all right, okay, I'll travel with you. Let's see what happens. Like, a believable reason for them to be like, throw caution to the wind for that moment. To be like, oh, let's bugger off. But here it's almost like, Martha left because everyone's a dick. It's like, oh.
Did you leave? No, anyway. With Jackie and with Mickey, that's their character traits come out as you get to know them.
What do we know about this family?
We don't know anything about them.
And I think it's weird. We'll talk about it more as the series goes on, but I don't like the handling of Francine in particular in the first half of the series, and it's just down to how quickly this stuff escalates. Because obviously at the end of this, she's like nicer to her, and she makes up with her, and Martha's gonna pop round for tea. Like, is the plan? She's gonna come back and go to tea. And Sinister Woman is like, thanks, and they take her mobile for evidence.
That makes no sense to me. If they take her phone.
Going down the line later, it makes sense, maybe, because when we know who is behind all this, it's possible that they're trying to track the signal to the point.
I understand
to
that.
the point in time and space that they're in.
But what if, like, she gets back in touch again?
Well, then a plastic bag in a government in a government car boot will start vibrating, I guess.
The cat just made a very strange sound.
Also, the Doctor's reaction at the end. I love the fact that he is like, I'll just fix your phone. And then at the end he's like, And here's a key. Like, that is really sweet. Because he's basically saying, I mean it, you're on board, welcome to the team, let's go.
Welcome to the team.
But it's also weird that just before he does that, he's just like...
Nick Fury appears.
Well, he puts his... I'm here to talk about the Francine Jones initiative. Your mum's up to some shady shit. But I'm intrigued by the fact that he talks to the two remaining crew members and he's like, I'll be alright, I'll be fine, thank you very much, and, well done, you sure you don't want to ride back? Okay, goodbye, good luck.
Yeah.
And then Martha's like, yeah, gives the guy a smooch, which I completely buy, because the whole idea is he's sort of reevaluated things a little bit because of their near-death experience.
Yeah.
And he's like, am I going to see you again? And she sort of gets a sense of, oh, bless him. Like, she doesn't reciprocate the feeling, but she's like, bless him. She's like, no, sorry, like, we'll never see each other again, pretty much. But she at least gives him that sort of, he's opening up to people more, and it's because of her.
Yeah.
So she gives him a snog and says, very hot. And off she pops. And it's like, that's cute. That is a cute-ass moment. Yay.
Yeah.
But she gets in the TARDIS, and the Doctor's just like, dead inside.
Yeah, he's emotionally
Drained.
affected because of what bloody happened.
It's so odd that he puts it... I don't know, it's an odd choice. He puts it on for them, and then he drops it, and then after 10 seconds of Martha being like, are you alright? He puts it on again in front of her in a really obvious way. Just feels disjointed.
Yeah, I get that.
I really like the Dalek two-parter. It's not incredible, but it's a lot of fun. I like the Lazarus Experiment. It's a lot of fun, if a bit hit and miss.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan of 42, still. How about you guys? What do you think? Do you like these stories? Do you love these stories? What do you like? What do you hate? What are you indifferent about? Let us know in the comments below. And also...
how do you think superheroes pee in their costumes?
That is important. Let us know. We're going to have to go because the memory card's going to finish. Goodbye,
Bye.
my dudes!
Goodbye.